TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem, and in today's top stories. Despite continued incendiary terror that emanates from the Gaza Strip toward Israeli territory, Qatar has delivered, with Jerusalem's consent, $25 million to the Hamas-controlled territory. A week before, a U.S.-led economic workshop is set to be held in Bahrain, during which the economic section of Washington's so-called deal of the century will be unveiled. The Palestinian leadership in Ramallah continues to call upon the international community to boycott the American initiative. The Israeli cabinet has approved a new Israeli community on the Golan region to be named Trump Heights after the American leader who recognized Jerusalem's sovereignty over the strategic plateau. Qatar has delivered $15 million in financial aid to the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip last night, out of which $10 million were earmarked for families in need of humanitarian assistance, with each family receiving $100, and the remaining $5 million were allocated for a World Bank program dubbed Cash for Work. In addition, Qatar transferred another $10 million to Israel for the purpose of funding the purchase of fuel for Gaza's sole power plant. It is important to point out the financial aid transfer to the Islamist-controlled territory comes at the height of renewed tensions along the Gaza-Israel border. Dozens of incendiary kites and balloons were flown from the Gaza Strip toward Israeli territory over the weekend, instigating multiple blazes in natural forests and agricultural fields. While Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said they had no relevant statement on the matter, the Israeli leader's main political rival, Blue and White Chairman Benny Gantz, condemned the transfer as an act that clearly demonstrates the loss of Israel's deterrence. In a statement on his Twitter account, Gantz wrote this morning, "Loss of deterrence, suitcases filled with dollars are again transferred, and there is no diplomatic achievement that will secure quiet for the residents of the Gaza periphery." Meanwhile, efforts to de-escalate the situation between Israel and Hamas have been ongoing. The United Nations Special Coordinator for the Mideast Peace Process, Nikolai Mladenov, met on Friday with members of Hamas's leadership, including Ismail Haniyeh, who relayed a clear message to Jerusalem, in which Israel has to grant Palestinian fishermen access to the sea immediately, or else the situation will escalate. Senior Hamas officials insisted that they are willing to give the international efforts to reach a truce arrangement and lift the siege on the enclave a chance. That said, if those efforts are not achieved, they warned, Hamas will force Israel to lift the siege by means of an armed resistance. It is important to note that the Hamas leadership in Gaza is apparently divided over the current international efforts to reach a truce arrangement with Israel. Palestinian sources reveal that Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar has lost faith in the international efforts and believes that the sides are wasting their time. As such, Sinwar refused to attend the Friday meeting, which Ismail Haniyeh held with UN Special Coordinator Nikolai Mladenov. Now to a related matter. A week before a US-led economic workshop is set to be held in Bahrain, during which the economic section of Washington's so-called deal of the century will be unveiled, the Palestinian leadership in Ramallah continues to call upon the international community to boycott the American initiative. The referred to two-day summit, which is scheduled for the 25th and 26th of June, will host both official state representatives and global business leaders to discuss U.S. President Donald Trump's economic vision for the region in general and the Palestinians in particular. According to President Trump's special representative for international negotiations, Jason Greenblatt, the workshop is a pivotal opportunity to convene governments, civil society, and business leaders to share ideas, discuss strategies, and galvanize support for potential economic investments and initiatives that could be made possible by a peace agreement. In an opinion editorial that was published by the American broadcaster CNN, Greenblatt ascertained that the economic workshop will facilitate discussions on an ambitious, achievable vision and framework for a prosperous future for Palestinians, while further insisting that the results of those discussions could lead to significant investment in the talented Palestinian and regional population. Despite repeated efforts by the Trump administration to convince the Palestinian leadership of the pivotal opportunity the so-called deal of the century presents to the Palestinian people, the Palestinian Authority has called for mass demonstrations to be held across the world against the American initiative, including a general strike on the days of the Bahrain summit. While the Palestinians vehemently reject any U.S. mediation to resolve their decades-old conflict with Israel, Jerusalem has confirmed its participation. According to Israeli Acting Foreign Minister Israel Katz, all necessary coordination will be carried out, taking into account the fact that Bahrain and Israel do not have open diplomatic relations.
ישראל הוזמנה כבר לוועידת בחריין.
ישראל תהיה בוועידת בחריין וכל התיאומים יתבצעו.
Despite the statement by Minister Katz, a senior Israeli source revealed that Israel is not expected to send official representatives to the Bahrain summit. According to the source, Israel will likely send a delegation consisting only of private business people. Now to the Golan Heights, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed U.S. President Donald Trump as a great friend of the State of Israel after the American leader recognized Jerusalem's sovereignty over the strategic plateau, which the Jewish state seized from Syria in the 1967 Middle East War. As part of Jerusalem's display of appreciation, a festive cabinet meeting was held on the Golan Heights, during which the government approved the establishment of a new Israeli community that is to be named after the American president, Trump Heights.
הנשיא טראמפ הוא ידיד גדול מאוד של מדינתנו. מנהיג שעשה דברים שלא נעשו קודם לכן, והיו צריכים לעשות בתוקף הצדק והאמת.
The U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, welcomed the Israeli gesture as a wonderful first step.
It's a wonderful first step in the follow-on to his recognition of Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, which I'm very proud of. I think many in the United States think it was a brilliant decision, and we're going to give some effect to it and life to it today. So it's a great afternoon. Very excited.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu also took the opportunity to discuss the aggressive behavior projected by the Islamic Republic of Iran across the Golan Heights border in Syria. The Israeli leader reiterated Jerusalem's resolve to thwart Tehran's aspirations.
הודות לנוכחות שלנו בגולן, נשמרים השקט והיציבות באזור, וגם בגולן מוכח שוב שישראל היא נכס אסטרטגי למדינות רבות במזרח התיכון. כולנו יודעים מה מתרחש בעשור האחרון כאן מעבר לגבול, ואם אנחנו לא היינו פה, מיליציות קנאיות של איראן היו פה. לא ניתן לזה לקרות אף פעם. אנחנו נמשיך לפעול כל העת נגד ניסיונותיה של איראן ושלוחת הטרור של החיזבאללה להתבסס מעבר לגבול ובסוריה בכלל.
In addition to Israel's efforts to confront Iran's regional ambitions, Netanyahu also called upon the international community to support the United States in confronting the Ayatollah regime, efforts that aim to assure, among others, freedom of maritime navigation. Thank you for watching us. You can also watch us at TV7israelnews.com or TV7.fi, as well as on our YouTube channel at TV7 Israel News. I'd like to take this opportunity to once again encourage you to support TV7 Israel, as all of our productions are 100% donation-based. Praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have an Erev Tov and Shavua Tov. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time.
Hi, this is Mayan Hessen from TV7 Israel News. Like our videos? Support our cause? Enjoy learning more about the region? Want constant updates about the Middle East? Then subscribe to the TV7 Israel News YouTube channel. Make sure to also turn on the notification bell with just one simple click of a button. After subscribing to our channel, a bell icon will appear under every one of our videos. You will find the notification bell right next to the subscribe button, and all you have to do is click on the bell icon, and make sure small sound bars appear above it. This way, you'll be alerted every time we upload a new video, and thus will never miss a thing. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.